He was supposed to stay in the guest room, just one night. But at midnight I heard his footsteps, his quiet voice calling my name, and suddenly nothing felt ordinary anymore. Every glance, every pause between us was electric, dangerous, and impossible to ignore. Nothing happened that night. Yet everything changed and I can't stop thinking about what almost did. Hey. Swept in Secrets, the best stories place. Please like and comment for my motivation. The rain started just after sunset, thin at first, then heavier, smudging the view outside my kitchen window until the neighborhood lights blurred like watercolor. I liked nights like that, quiet, hidden, safe. Or at least I used to. Mac had been gone for 3 days on another business trip. Third one that month. I'd learned to keep busy when he traveled. Tidy the kitchen twice, fold the laundry that was already folded, leave the TV humming just to fill the silence. But no matter how much noise I made, the house still felt too big when he wasn't in it. The phone buzzed on the counter. Dylan Walker. Mac's oldest friend, the man who used to show up at our cookouts with that easy grin and a six-pack. The one who could fix anything from a leaky faucet to a broken mood. He'd been a part of our lives for years, but it had been months since I'd seen him. "Hey Emma." His voice came warm through the speaker, low and familiar. "I'm driving through town. Any chance I could crash for the night? I'd grab a hotel but everything's booked. Storm's pretty rough out here." I didn't even think before answering. "Of course. The guest room's ready. Drive safe." When he arrived half an hour later, the wind pushed rain sideways across the porch. He stood there, soaked, laughing under his breath. "Guess I should have packed an umbrella." "Get in here," I said, grabbing a towel. As he stepped inside, water dripped from his jacket onto the hardwood. He smelled like rain and cold air and something faintly woodsy. He rubbed the towel through his hair, and when he looked up, our eyes met. The same spark that always unnerved me flickered again, small but unmistakable. "Still the same place," he said, glancing around. "You haven't changed a thing." I smiled. "Guess I like what I like." Dinner was leftovers, pasta and half a bottle of Cabernet. We talked about everything that didn't matter. His job in Denver, Mac's endless travel, the weather. Every once in a while his knee brushed mine under the table, light and accidental, but it sent a quiet current through me each time. When the storm slowed and the clock crept past midnight, I stood to clear the plates. Dylan followed me to the sink. "You still hum when you cook," he said, leaning against the counter. I laughed softly. "Bad habit." He shook his head. "Not bad. Just you." The way he said it, gentle, certain, made my chest tighten. I turned away, pretending to rinse a dish. "You should get some sleep. Guest room's all set." He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah. Thanks, Em." When I finally crawled into bed, the rain had quieted, but inside me the noise had only grown. I replayed the evening, the warmth in his voice, the way he'd looked at me when I smiled. It felt wrong to notice. It also felt impossible not to. Somewhere past 1 a.m., footsteps whispered down the hallway. A soft knock followed. "Emma." "Dylan." "Couldn't sleep," he said through the door. "That room's freezing. Do you mind if I sit for a minute?" I hesitated, then, "Sure." He opened the door just wide enough to slip inside. Barefoot, hair still damp, he looked half asleep, half awake. The lamplight caught the edge of his jaw, the small scar near his temple I'd never noticed before. "I didn't mean to bother you," he said quietly. "I just couldn't get comfortable." "It's okay." He sat on the edge of the bed, careful to keep space between us. For a long moment neither of us spoke. The house ticked and settled around us. "You ever think about how strange timing is?" he said at last. "What do you mean?" "If I'd met you before Mac did." My breath caught. "Don't," I whispered. "I'm not saying it should have been different," he murmured. "Just, sometimes life misses by inches." He looked at me, then really looked, and the air seemed to fold around us. My pulse pounded in my ears. "I should go back," he said, standing slowly. "Yeah. but neither of us moved. Finally he smiled, small and pained. "Good night, Emma." "Good night." When the door clicked shut, I lay staring at the ceiling, wide awake, trying to steady my breathing. Then sometime after 2 I heard it again. The creak of a floorboard, the faint sound of a door closing down the hall. The guest room door. And then mine. It opened just a few inches before stopping. I didn't turn my head. I only whispered, "You shouldn't." His voice came from the doorway, rough and low. "I know." The door closed again. And he was gone. Morning came, gray and quiet. The storm had passed, leaving the air sharp and clean. I found Dylan already in the kitchen, hair damp from a shower, pouring coffee like it was any ordinary day. "Hope you don't mind," he said. "Couldn't find the filters, so I improvised." "You remembered where everything is," I said. He smiled. "Guess some things stick." We ate in soft conversation. Safe topics, easy laughter. But every word hid what had hung between us all night. When he finally slung his duffel over his shoulder, I walked him to the door. "Thanks for letting me crash," he said. "Anytime." His hand brushed mine when I handed him his keys. A single second, maybe 2, but enough to make the world tilt. He looked down at our hands, then up at me. "Take care of yourself, Em." "You too." The door shut and the house was quiet again. 4 days afterward, I kept expecting him to text, to call, to finish the sentence we'd both left hanging. But he didn't. And I told myself it was better that way. 3 weeks later, a car pulled into the driveway while I was making dinner. I wiped my hands on a towel and glanced through the window. He stood by his truck, looking uncertain for once. When I opened the door, he smiled softly. Hey. Mac's not home," I said automatically. "I know." He asked me to drop off some documents he left in my truck. He held up a small envelope. I stepped aside. "You can come in." The moment he crossed the threshold, that same energy filled the space again, quiet, charged. He set the envelope on the counter. He said these were important. "Thanks. I'll give them to him." He nodded but didn't move to leave. His eyes traced the room, then settled on me. "You cut your hair." "Little bit." "It suits you." I tried to smile, but my throat felt tight. "Coffee?" "Sure." While I poured, he watched me the way someone watches a photograph they aren't supposed to keep. When I handed him the mug, our fingers touched. Neither of us pulled away right away. "Dylan," I said softly. He set the cup down. "I keep thinking about that night." I froze. "Nothing happened," I said quickly. "I know." He took a step closer. "But something did. And pretending it didn't is driving me crazy." The air grew thin. "You shouldn't say that." "Probably not." His smile was small, sad. "I'm leaving again tonight. Maybe for good. But I couldn't leave without seeing you." He reached out, brushed a strand of hair from my face. The touch was light, trembling. That's all I needed. I couldn't breathe. "Goodbye, Emma." He turned and walked out before I could answer. The screen door closed softly behind him. I stood there, motionless, until his truck's taillights faded down the road. When Mac came home an hour later, I was still standing in the kitchen. The coffee Dylan hadn't finished cooling on the counter. Mac kissed my cheek, talking about airports and meetings and delays. I nodded in the right places, but my mind was miles away, chasing the sound of an engine disappearing into the dark. That night, lying beside my husband, I listened to his breathing and thought about how quiet guilt could be, how it didn't shout or sting, it just lingered, soft and steady, like a heartbeat you couldn't ignore. I told myself that nothing had happened, and yet everything had. Months passed. Mac never suspected a thing. There was nothing to suspect. But sometimes, when the weather turned and rain streaked down the windows, I'd catch a faint scent of cedar in the air and remember the sound of a knock at midnight. I wondered where Dylan was. Whether he still thought about that night. Whether he regretted leaving or not staying. Life went on. Mac and I took a trip to the coast, redecorated the living room, smiled for photos that looked perfectly happy. But inside, a quiet corner of me remained restless, awake, listening for a door that would never open again. Maybe that was the price of almost crossing a line. You never got closure, only the echo of what might have been. Still, every now and then, when thunder rolled far away and the wind rattled the windows, I'd imagine a truck pulling into the drive, headlights cutting through the dark. And for just a second before reason returned, I'd almost believe he'd stayed in the guest room again. But not all night.